Welcome to the BUSR once again. We're out at the lovely Brazil this time around, and it's absolutely one of my favorite tracks on the entire calendar. At the moment, I'm joined by Josh Woody for the evening. How are you doing? Oh, did you go off? No. Oh, well, as he figures out his if he's on air or not, we will keep yabbering on as qualifying is the first thing that is up on the timesheet, but at the moment, I'm not sure if this stream is actually up to date on YouTube, which is fun.
Who knows?
We love all of
If it
that.
has crashed, I will be trying to fix that quickly. But you should be able to hear me now, at least, people. Hopefully. Let me turn myself up a little bit so you can hear me a little better.
Oh no, it's just on the biggest delay I've seen of all time.
There we go.
Uh
Yes, it is somewhat running. Something is
we do have
happening.
qualifying. That is what matters at the end of the day. Qualifying with quite a few of the championship mainstays here this time around. Chris Pilakoris, who does lead the championship and just needs to outscore by 25 points or more, or just simply finish in the top two to guarantee the championship.
Yeah, it has really been a dominant season for Chris this time around, hasn't it? No one has really come close to him this season. There's been a few contenders they've sort of sniffed from behind, but no one's ever got particularly close to challenging him. He has won 5 in a row, I think it is now. So yeah, realistically, I don't see anyone challenging him today. But we can always hope and pray that someone might do it. Yes, apologies to those watching the stream, it's very laggy. I am currently trying to fix that. I don't know why it's
As
deciding to not work. Let's try this and
in
hope.
the meantime, just going over those results of Chris Pilakoris. Last week is probably the most intense battle Chris has seen from Luke Sawyer out at Qatar, but that is a track known for the issues on pad and the wear that they face on the tyres. Always said by Chris that that's going to be one of the ones to struggle. The only races Chris has not won across the entire season was Miami, which Chris did not attend. That was won by Ben Mills after an amazing fight between Ben Mills and Alex Lansdale, who also had an amazing fight in the round prior at the Netherlands, but they both picked up 10 seconds in the pit lane, and that ended up still giving Chris Pilakoris the win, even though they were both in the hot seat for it. The only other race was the sprint race at Australia, which Lally ended up coming out on top and subsequently following it up with their first ever main race podium.
Yeah,
As we
it was
do.
it was a very good race last week. Realistically, sprint races always do bring a little bit of chaos, don't they? Unfortunately, Willow probably should have been up there fighting as well, but not entirely sure why uh, he got punted. But that's a sprint race for you. I think, to be honest, given that I cannot see as to what is wrong, let's try this and hope. But
uh,
if it doesn't fix itself, then what I will just do is we will just cut to a recording and upload this later.
as I pray that you are able to fix it. We are joined in the commentary box by James. If you're ready, say hello.
Hello, I'm ready. Thank you guys for having me back, and apologies for the tardiness. Wooly, good to see you. Torium, good to see you as well, and excited for this one. Looks like we're having some issues at the moment.
A few. Willie is trying to fix them, mostly with glitchiness on the broadcast end. Obviously, this time around, the standard qualifying into race, no shenanigans with sprint races, because both of those were absolute chaos, other than the fact that Chris's Pilacore is summing up. Obviously, with these issues, we're just gonna go over the standings just a little bit further. Alex Lansdale will not be racing here tonight, unfortunately, as we do actually get that flash up of the improvement of times. Ben Mills does snipe P number 1 away from Chris's Pilacore at the moment, as Luke Sawyer goes to P number 3. Luke Sawyer being one of the main stays this season, one of the drivers showing up the most regularly out of them all, and that's put them in a very good position in P number 2, over 20, just under 20 points ahead of Ben Mills in that P number 2 position, taking it away last time out with a P number 2 that they were so close to beating Pilacoris in, with that 3-second penalty that they picked up for track limits, stealing away all of their hope in the dying stages.
Yeah, Qatar really providing some excitement there. And we've got a kind of a flurry of excitement in and out of the pits. About half or so of the grid in the pits at the moment. McLaren heading out onto track. And again, as you said, Newt and Geek, the two Red Bull, as we see a little bit of a lockup there, like a left front there from Chris's Pilacoris.
As Willow jumps to the top of the timesheet, only appeared in 3 races. This will be that 3rd race for Willow across this season. But a driver who has clearly got plenty of pace to challenge Chrisis and Ben Mills. We might finally have a driver who can help take down and usurp Chrisis Pilacoris. Obviously, last time out at Qatar, having an amazing show and getting onto the podium in the main race from so far down, but having a disconnect issue, holding them up and being on a slightly different strategy to the leaders due to starting lower down. Not able to be within that foray, but definitely having the confidence to say if they started higher, they can be in that fight. And with this qualifying so far, they're going to try and keep that fact and actually turn it into a display of talent. But we're going to round the final corner with Chris's Pilacoris to see if they can take that position back. They don't take it from Willow, but they will get the position over Ben Mills. Top 3 only split by 1/10 at the moment.
Yeah, well, you say 1/10, about half a tenth. It looks like it's about as tight as it could possibly be here at the front as we continue to ride on board with Pilacoris here, who desperately needs fuel, but will of course need to be teleporting back to the pits here in just a minute to come up through this very technical section here at the Interlagos circuit. And we're now fast forwarded through. So you have a look here at Luke Sawyer, been on the podium multiple times this season. Very, very quick driver. And again, coming through this kind of bowl section here, through the sweeper, through the left, and then this interesting uphill, kind of the final really braking zone corner, if you want to call it that, and into this long left-hander. This entire section, a little bit off camber at the beginning, and then we're just going to sweep all the way through. Again, minimizing the distance and trying to get over the white line on the left. And now we're going to swing out to the right here, across the line. Luke Sawyer. Any improvement does not look like it for the Racing Bulls driver.
He has just started.
And oh, apologies. So Luke Sawyer on their lap here. So we'll head down the kind of side straight into one of the better overtaking opportunities on the track. Really throws it in, trusting that rear end. Now we head down the hill. And again, coming in towards the more technical part of the track here. Potential overtakes into this. Yes, definitely.
Sector 2 being the tight and technical section of the lap. It's where you can gain most of that time, especially when you have such clear air that Luke Sawyer finds himself with on this critical lap. Midway through the session, we'll see a couple of extra chances for some of the drivers, but Luke Sawyer's going to try and make this chance. One of the better ones is the skies in the cloud keep getting darker. Probably not going to see any rain, but it will cool down the track temp. So it's going to be crucial to keep this last sector as tight as possible. Run it right to the line. And with perfect battery usage, we'll find only that of 400ths of a second. As then Ben Mills comes across the line to start their lap as well. They will try and find an improvement just the same. Right now, they are just on the 107.19 and it's going to be a little bit before they can catch up to Chris and Willow, who still stand in the pit lane, but a little bit of traffic ahead. Hopefully, it peels out of the way in time to not hamper Ben Mills too much, as they do actually back out of that lap of a track invalidation.
Yeah, and as we ride on board here with Ben Mills, again, backing off there. Ben Mills seems to be a lot gentler on that front end, not quite getting the amount of steering input in as Luke Sawyer, who was extremely trusting of the rear end on their final lap that we rode on board with. So again, different styles, different ways of attacking the corners. Luke, very, very aggressive, and Ben a little less so. But again, lap time's extremely close. So it's fascinating to see that only 0.2 of a second between the drivers. And apparently for Ben, as we're winding up to have another go around the final section, or sector, I should say, getting started on this lap here. Only 3.5 minutes to go, so there's only a couple more runs possible for these drivers. Again, a majority are still sat in the pit lane as we head into turn 1, staying off the rumbly part of that, all over the second curve, all over the third curve as well, trying to minimize the distance to this hard braking zone down here. Left, and the road falls away. A little more aggressive on that one there from Ben. And now down the hill, and again toward that sector 2 section here. This Formula 1 car is generating enormous amounts of downforce. Some of these corners are no problem for this specific series. And again, road falling away, staying all the way away from that curb. Oh, a little bit of snap there, a little bit of lateral acceleration on the rear of the Williams Mills up to it, potentially losing that all-important 10th that my co-commentator spoke about. And again, into the final corner, missing that larger curve on the inside of that final left-hander, which should keep the platform nice and stable. And again, having a look at that battery there, 10%, and looks like perfect, again, just about perfect battery usage, but no improvement in terms of position.
Yeah, Ben Mills with the signature absolute chuck off the steering wheel into the corner, but then smooth all the way out. It's always interesting to watch an on board with Ben Mills, because when they go through the corners in qualifying, the front end just gets snapped into the corner, but then the rear end, they like to leave it to exit very smoothly. It's a style that we saw a lot in F124, but on F125 has been not necessarily always the fastest, but a different set of styles all working on this game compared to 24, where you did have to pick up that signature style. As we ride on board with Liam Doherty, who doesn't necessarily get the best run through the center S's to start it off with. So I'm going to be interested to see if they do commit to this lap. It does look like they are not going to be committed to this one, though. At the moment, it's a 5-horse race at the top of the timesheet. Willow, Chris, Ben Mills, Liam, and Luke Sawyer split by 2.5 tenths of a second. Then it's a little bit of a jump to Luke Sawyer's teammate Lally, who found improvement up into P number 6. And then behind that, Newt, Geek, and a bunch of others forming that second pack of drivers down to Pinnock, who are going to race for the lower end point. We do run a different point system as we ride on board with Luke Sawyer and see Ben Mills stuck with that 107.002 as their final time. Can anyone below find improvements to try and overthrow that lap time, as we have yellow flags across all 3 sets of the sectors as drivers try and space out as much as they can. As you see in the bottom right, the map, the drivers all trying to find that clear air critically for themselves, because the Pillar and Willow still on their out lap. They're going to get to the line in time to start their laps, and they both will have had plenty of time to do so, as we do ride on board with Luke Sawyer, who will lead the rest of the field to set their last final attempt at a lap time. He'll come up the hill with 10 seconds remaining. We'll start deploying all of that ERS that you save just until the last moment, and it takes away as you try and charge up the hill. And Luke Sawyer will find an improvement, but it won't be enough by just 1/100th of a second, and we'll stick in P number 5 for now as we jump back down the field. We'll jump on board with Chris's Pilakoris, the next of the top 5 contenders in on the track. They're going to round through the back end of sector number 2. This has always been a crucial corner to nail on, as the run here is a little bit longer and can actually save quite a bit of time. And then that curb on the inside, definitely one curb that you mentioned. You don't want to run over too much, as it is a little bit harsher than you think. It can unsettle these cars, especially in this ground effect era, that get ever so more affected by that. But the run to the line will see a mild improvement, but 3,000 behind Willow, and Willow sets an even faster time than that to break the gap further, which leaves only Liam in contention, and they dive into the pit lane, not finding any times of improvement.
Absolutely just nip and tuck there. And again, Willow, we want to say stretching it, but only about 3/hundredths or so at the top. So Willow, again, as you spoke about earlier, you kind of called it there. Willow, they've been on the podium before this season, and extremely strong pace. Look at that. So the top 3 split by less than 1/10 of a second. And I believe it was 7th Newt and the teammate of Geek, all the way back to Pinnock in 11th, split by maybe about less than half a second there. So the grid extremely close, and again, right at the death. Chris is getting about as close as possible, and Willow taking it away again.
Always great to see a little bit of a better turnout here for the drivers, as we see a few different main factors in the constructor standings going to be at play. Williams, Racing Bulls, and Red Bull are the main battle for second, as Aston Martin nearly has it secured out front. But we do want to just quickly mention of the sponsors that we do have in SimStaff, Simply Race, NSC, but most importantly, Grid Finder, which is where we can find the BUSR that is brought towards everyone. Welcome back after that quick little break. We're not too far away from the lights ticking away. As we're here at Brazil, there's going to be 36 laps of racing action. Willow on pole, facing down Chris's Pilakoris, and the 5 red lights in the air as they fall to the ground. The cars power away up at the hill, and Chris's Pilakoris on the inside line, already finding their way, storming into the lead of this race and into control. The position that they know so well off of the line has already been reclaimed, as Willow and the championship finally this time around in position to actually challenge Chris's Pilakoris at the front, as we already see the ERS being switched off for Chris's Pilakoris, trying to manage that through the rest of the race. And Willow gets a really heavy twitch with Ben Mills right on their rear end side. They're going to have to be careful going through this tight and twisty section, but it is really hard to find any kind of overtakes through a section number 2. But Ben Mills is going to be hounding onto the back end of Willow. 5 key drivers in this race then, all of the top 5 in position to race for it. No one standing out of position, as we are coming strictly off the qualifying. No sprint races to cause a bit of a mishap in order. 5 different constructors as well as we come towards the hill for the first climb of the lap. We're going to see this many more times, but we see Liam behind getting a little bit of a poorer exit. No DRS this time around will mean that they're going to have to hang on to this position through slipstream alone, which is a little bit weaker this time around. Can Luke Sawyer try and capitalize on this before the DRS opens up and the train starts to form? Another bit behind Newt and Geek, the 2 Red Bulls, standing line astern, really trying to make a maximum effort of the 2 driver outfit. But they do have Laddie behind in the Racing Bulls as well, who has a good run onto Geek in the background at the moment, but not good enough, as we all stay line astern, coming back into Sector 2 again.
Yeah, definitely. And again, this racetrack really is, it's one of the great racetracks here in Interlagos. It's one of the best overtaking opportunity producing tracks. And as we head into, again, the technical section, there's not a lot of braking through this section. Very, very dependent on the mechanical grip as opposed to the aerodynamic grip of the cars. But as you can see, especially with this era, that the cars are able to run quite close together. and we will be heading through Pico Tapata, which is the Duck's Bill, I believe is the proper translation of that. And now again onto this final section here, and then we will be drafting all the way, deploying battery. We see on board here with Doherty. Doherty quite close, and actually Luke Sawyer closer to us in rears. So trying to decide here, Liam Doherty, if we're going to be attacking or defending. And again, it's very early doors. There's a huge lockup from the Alpine there. Doherty going very, very deep. Will that set up Sawyer as he ride on board? Again, deploying battery out of that S section. And now here we go for the lead. This is Willow on the outside, Pilikoris on the inside. Ben Mills getting the best view in the house. And is there going to be a change for the lead? It's going to be side by side. They're still side by side. There's no more overlap, but will Willow try something around the outside? He may. And it looks like Pilikoris is hanging on for now. Does that open Ben Mills up on the inside as we head into the technical section?
Ben Mills not able to get through on that one. Very desperate moves from Willow, trying to just challenge Chris Pilikoris early on this race. They know that Chris is used to being at the front and controlling the pace the whole time through. So he's going to try and give them as much of a challenge hit early here, as Brazil can always sometimes end up in being a little bit of a DRS train. So all four of these drivers are going to try and challenge each other as much as possible. Chris Pilikoris setting down the pace a little bit faster this time around, as being challenged so heavily from Willow forces them into a bit more aggression onto the tires. Willow will run already. He's going to try and find themselves going through, but Bull Ben Mills by able to find a way through for the center testers as well. They're going to have to go to the outside line to try and find it, but that's going to get cut off by Chris Pilikoris, as we do find Willow taking away the race lead and trying to build a gap already onto Chris Pilikoris, but they will get DRS to resupplement their position in P number 2, as Ben Mills tucking in back behind again, going into sector number 2. All of these drivers trying to nip and tuck at each other, trying to hound the rear ends as much as possible, as this track is one of the hardest to try and get alongside, but once you get there, you can be rewarded.
Yeah, Sawyer again really close behind the Alpine of Doherty at the moment. And again, Pilikoris getting it stopped into turn 1. We saw a large lockup. Again, it's not the easiest position to be. You get past, you may lose a second position. Again, Pilikoris needs to finish 4th or better. So at the moment, Pilikoris is in championship contention there, as again, all over the curves we saw. And again, upsetting the rear of the car there on the exit. Will that open Ben Mills up to a much better look than last time out? Again, he was significantly further as Willow was splitting the Aston and the Williams. And now let's see if Ben Mills has anything for him. Does Luke Sawyer have anything for Liam Doherty? Not on this occasion. And again, a big lockup from Pilikoris. Getting it stopped, running, again, as you said, quite high pace, but having issues into that first corner. And no wonder, because Ben closing up to the back of them. A little further through the lap there. Again, different styles, some drivers, and here we are on board of the Ferrari of Ginka, down in 9th place at the moment. And again, chasing Gink down here. Lally running a good 7th. So yeah, again, that's Willow, Pilikoris, and Ben Mills in the top 3. Liam Doherty in 4th, Luke Sawyer 5th, Newt and Lally 6th and 7th, Geek and on board with Ginka. Now having a look here at the back of the Ferrari of Geek, and potentially going to try to put a move down in turn 1.
In the early stages, we saw Lally getting past Geek, but during that overtaking move, we saw the gaps of over a second eke on out. Lally trying to get back that gap down to Newt out in front and keep on to this train out in front as behind. It takes down to GMT to really find the gap starting to form out on track. But coming back to the race by Ginka, back on the rear end here of Geek, who actually had to spin. Chris Pilikoris' issues at turn number 1 ends up compounding even further, as Chris Pilikoris trying to spin it around, trying to get back in the right direction, hopefully with no damage. We see 2 by to wide out in front, 2 by wide behind. We do switch to the outboard cam, and we see Chris Pilikoris facing Nightmare with the front wing, having a damaged right side end plate and a spin through turn number 1. We don't catch if that spin was purely off of the lockups or if there was contact between Chris and anyone else. But what we do know for a matter of fact is Chris Pilikoris was struggling with locking up the tires and was building up the flat spots, and that might have come to bite them back already. The race for the title is that of Ben Mills and Luke Sawyer, and this promotes them both into heavy congestion territory, and potentially this is the spark they need to charge back into the championship.
Yeah, this has really swung here again as Ben Mills trying to hunt Willow down. Again, just kind of looking for a rhythm and actually potentially a move here. No, not quite. Sorry, that was a bit of an early call there. Again, the same kind of maneuver there. Willow trying to go as deep as possible, trying to keep Ben Mills from even thinking about having a lunge down the inside at turn one. And again, Willow able to hold Mills at bay, or at least at arm's length, as we have on board view here. Liam Doherty almost getting the rear end out of that the one of the better overtaking opportunities on the track. And again, it seems kind of line of stern at the moment for the drivers out front. And again, yeah, so we're looking at Pillacoris 13th at the moment. He has three of the four people in front of Pillacoris at the moment are hard runners, which should lend itself to Pillacoris getting through them potentially quickly. And he has already caught up to the back of GMT UFC in the Haas for 12th place. We'll keep an eye on Pillacoris later on as we have a look at Liam Doherty in third place. Luke Sawyer close behind. Again, Sawyer and Mills looking for a win with Pillacoris not scoring the most amount of points, and they will still be in contention, and this will go all the way to the final round. And Pillacoris has a little bit of a Sebastian Vettel style of dismay there. It was a different corner, and actually we're having a look here at Liam Doherty attacking Ben Mills, who's been wanting to attack Willow, and it looks like there's nothing doing at the moment. Again, all these drivers up front managing their energy, trying to make sure that they have enough to attack with or defend, as the case may be. And speaking of attacking, that is Dom Lab with Apex Predator all over them around the outside, heading into one of the better overtaking opportunities. A late lunge for the Haas. Not this time around.
ERS is really the name of the game here in F1 26, as well as build a little bit of a gap over Ben Mills. You saw them locking up, but able to get a better exit than Ben Mills in the end. You had to check themselves up, nearly opening up the gap for Liam Doherty. But the main thing, as we ride back on board, is that ERS management in this game. It is so powerful as we are racing against each other. In this game, it's probably one of the most effective it has been in any of the Formula One titles, with that deployment of the overtake mode in specific. But the other things to matter as well is that the slipstream effectiveness is weaker, but we see Willow again locking up that front left tire. We saw it from Chris's Perlicoris in the opening laps. We're now seeing it coming out from Willow again. Both of the drivers who are leading the train trying to brake as late as possible, and it's really putting the pressure onto the brakes and then finding the correct biting point going into the center S's, as we see Pinnock, the race leader's teammate, racing against GMT UFC, trying to get further forward on those hard tires, but a bit of a comeback on the DRS from Pinnock is going to get them around the outside, and they will take it back into P number 11. We do see Chris's Pinnock actually spin, as they actually spin, and as we look back even further, meet the teacher, also seemingly ending up in a spin. Two drivers at the same time spinning out at different parts of the track, as I try and mention that Chris's Pillacoris has early pit onto the hard tire and has a clear piece of track in front of them, but they're going to have to go very long. Maybe one stop, but maybe just going to try and extend and hope for a late safety car to bring them back into this race.
Yeah, and there is plenty of action. Again, the top four here to pick up Ben Mills just on cue. Lovely. The top four broken away. Speaking of breaking away, down the inside here for the race lead. Willow, can they do anything to defend? Does not look like there's anything to be done. Of course, this track again has tons of overtaking opportunities, and Willow knows it. Potentially an outside move. Now they're just right in the center of the track, the leaders. Mills, and now Willow down the inside. Not quite. Mills shuts the door, gets a decent exit, and I don't think Willow, unless they go on the outside here, all the battery being used here from the ERS system. And it looks like Willow is going to have to concede for now. Mills out front. This is exactly what Mills needed. Phil, of course, has hit issues, trying to make the best of a bad situation. And there comes the fastest lap of the race as GMT UFC get the 3-second time penalty. But Chris Pillacoris, 15th, 4.5 seconds off of the closest rival, which is good for them at the moment. And again, let's see if Willow has any kind of response for Ben Mills coming through the final corner here. Both drivers trying to stay off of that chunky apex on the final proper corner, I should say. And again, it really just kind of gets in your head that the driver behind has so many tools, and using all of them as Willow down the inside again, and a slam dunk move. Can they get it stopped? Yes, they can. So that's a swap for position and a swap right back.
Extinguishing all of their ERS, though, we probably see Willow running out of ERS in that previous lap. This time, extinguishing all of it. You're going to see the derating on the car already if you're Ben Mills, but not going to be able to find the angle to go for the attack. As we see Pinnock's car, even though they've retired onto the race, the AI have, for some reason, put the car out on track. Not sure what's happening there. As Doherty on the back of Ben Mills, going to try and get a little bit racy, but right now, Liam Doherty being stuck behind these leading pair who are trying to push the pace even further, but both of them locking up on that move 2 laps ago. Meanwhile, Luke Sawyer in 4th, just sitting pretty, keeping themselves composed at the moment, and the only driver of this leading quad that I haven't seen actually put any lockups onto their tires, potentially happy to see that the rest are struggling while they're just hanging on in the DRS, keeping themselves in the race at the moment, and maybe going to try and eke out something later on if their tire wear is in fact standing their ground a little bit better. But at the moment, they're still just sitting at the back of the pack, deploying that ERS to make sure that they're keeping up. But this time, no angles to attack Willow out in front, as he is able to build a little bit of a gap. We do see enough of a lockup for Liam Doherty, but we don't see the exit speed coming out from Luke Sawyer this time around.
It really is getting tight. And again, something's going to need to happen here. I don't think that these 4 drivers are going to be content with the order that they're in, apart from Willow, of course. And another snap there, Ben Mills trying to get the best exit possible. And this is exactly why Liam Doherty all over the back of that Williams at the moment. They couldn't be that much closer as we head into the tight, twisty section. Again, not a lot of braking zones. And so this is kind of a time to kind of size up, recharge that battery, and have another go down the, I guess you could say from the track map, the top side of the circuit. And this group of 4, I should say, is being chased by another group of 4 of Nuke, Lolly, Tom Hug, and Geek, the teammate of Nuke, about 4.5 or so seconds back from the leading quartet. I was looking for the word there. And we have a look here at the Mercedes of Tom coming through. Again, this pack not quite as compact as the other quad out in front, and losing only about 2 or 3 tenths of a second per lap, something like that, as we hit the 1/3 mark here of this half distance race on F1. And we join the front quartet now.
Yeah, going back to the front quartet, we will mention, though, quickly that Newt and Geek, as 2 teammates, trying to get as many points as possible in the Red Bulls, as they're trying to charge down the Williams in of Ben Mills, the lone driver of that team at the moment in the series, who is currently leading the Constructors over that of the 2 Red Bulls. But a huge opportunity for the Red Bulls to take away 3rd in the Constructors has opened up. But right now, the Racing Bulls of Luke Sawyer and Lally have been a consistent threat that have denied Red Bull any further progression. And as they last time overtook into P2 in the standings, they still face such a big gap to the Constructor standings that it's almost a guarantee. But with a result like this to Chris's Chorus, if any window was open, it would have been opened a hell of a lot wider. But right now, Ben Mills tucking in again in the back of Willow, sorry. It's all depending on if Willow can get good exits at the moment, and if they have enough ERS to deny the attack of Ben Mills. This is the highest amount of ERS we have seen from Ben Mills in quite some time. So will they try to use it on the offensive charge here, or will they just keep it slowly racking up, as they're now significantly over 50% battery? But as we switch back to Lally, they are the first of that second group to come into the pit lane, and they will switch over to the hard tires. A little bit of a long distance to go, but they can probably make it towards the end.
Yeah, and again, with that exit through the back of the pit lane there, really pushing that. And I really appreciated you saying on the charge when it came to the ERS of Ben Mills. I love that. On board here with Liam Doherty here, 75% battery. Of course, this is the Titan technical spot, not really deploying too much because there's not really as much of a straight. And now, again, we're at 86, 87, 89%, almost 90% now. And I'm sure at least half of that's going to get used now as we hunt down the man you're right on board with here, Ben Mills. And are we close enough for a move? It really is amazing how far back you can come from in Brazil, and potentially Ben Mills down the inside, not quite, causing a lockup for Willow, who keeps getting it stopped. Again, we saw Chris's Philipporis having lockups, but it didn't seem to affect their line. Willow seems to be holding it about the same way. So it doesn't seem like the lockups are causing any kind, obviously other than that left front tire being tortured. It seems that the pace is good from the leaders despite all of the pressure that they're having to soak up. And as I say, Luke Sawyer seems to be dropping off from the back of this trio just a little bit, potentially looking for cooler engine temps or tire temps, and potentially just waiting for it all to kick off.
Looks like his tyres not looking quite as rough as the three main leaders without those lockups, but definitely potentially suffering from the graining phase at the moment. The clouds being so dark will mean the track is colder than what it could be, which will help with the tyre life just a little bit. Liam Doherty actually getting really all over the curb. If Luke Sawyer was a little bit closer, maybe this is the chance to strike, but Liam Doherty with 80% plus battery should see themselves safe in the defensive move, maybe trying to stack up quite a lot of VRS to try and attack Ben Mills, now being forced to use some extra just to keep themselves safe. So we do actually see Luke Sawyer being the first of the leaders to come into the pit lane, and they're going to be the driver to initiate the switch in strategy for the leading quad of drivers. Can they perform the undercut, and do they have any clear air to come out into following their teammate into the pits just a lap behind, which will leave the three of these drivers out in front at the moment, as Ben Mills again just 2 tenths behind Willow, but agonizingly going through a section of the track where there's not really anywhere where they can try and engage an overtake. But we will see Luke Sawyer actually getting crucially ahead of this train of cars that are following behind Ginka, and the penalties that they all are facing. Laddie's currently behind that train, but Laddie actually now with only 2 seconds of Luke Sawyer does give us an indication that Laddie has been able to gain some time onto the train of Newt, who's 6 seconds behind the leaders. Unless Luke Sawyer had an issue in the pit lane, this might be a huge opportunity on the undercut.
Oh yeah, definitely. And again, Pilakoris, again with that large spin, disaster for Pilakoris earlier on, but again has met no resistance as we ride on board with the Mercedes of Tom Hug, and now we switch over to the leaders. So we have Liam Doherty in the pits, Ben Mills ahead of us in the pits, Willow ahead of them, and Tom Hug will take over on those 16-lap-old hards.
And
everybody picking him up, setting him down. And it is raining, we are hearing.
It looks, yeah.
So
it looks like it's raining.
We will have to see what kind of strength of the weather here. Again, Interlagos between the lakes, and there it is on the camera. We have a look here at Tom Hug out in front in the Mercedes, of course, yet to take their pit stop, and they have a small penalty as well. And how hard do you press that right pedal? How much do you flex your ankle there as we see Luke Sawyer coming out on the intermediates? Luke Sawyer coming immediately back into the pits after serving the first of the pit stops for the leading quartet. And now I wouldn't even call it rolling the dice. I would say that everybody else is going to have to figure out what they're going to do. Again, everybody on the hards apart from Newt out in front who has not come in for the pits. And it seems that the main strategy is just going to be to come in as soon as possible. Can they get it turned in here as we are riding on board with Newt? Going rallycross here. Can we get up the hill? Can we get all the way around? This is one of the worst final sectors of any track when it's soaking wet. The water runs right to left, and that's where you want the car. Diving into the pits, of course. And it looks like Willow and Ben Mills have already made it around as well. Liam Doherty also coming through. Ginka, everybody sliding around. Oh, Ginka getting all out of shape. Going to lose a spot to Lolly here, who, again, it's a race to the pit lane as opposed to a race to the front of the grid, just trying to keep it alive and get back into the pits. So again, here we are again, the top three as it all shakes out, but potentially that may not be the case here.
The previous top three face devastation in the heavens of Brazil. The clouds open up, and if it's just a God's wish, Chris's Pilakoris has been gifted the opportunity of a lifetime after potentially making a mistake earlier on. As if it isn't fated, Chris's Pilakoris early onto the hards, sticks it out, sees the rain, and gets a much more optimum lap time. And there we see it. Chris's Pilakoris is within the grasps of Willow Ben Mills with warmer tires and already back in front of Liam, as he only has Luke Sawyer, Assassin J, Willow, Tom Hug ahead, and a couple of those drivers we expect these charts to charge past very quickly. But Luke Sawyer, the best one out of these, pitting one lap earlier, but it was so close, it was so marginal. If there was only 20 seconds potentially later on their pit stop, we might have seen Willow, Ben, and Liam switching to the intermediate tires. But instead, we now have a new race leader. We have Tom Hug leading the way of Newt behind. Then we have Luke Sawyer 6 seconds behind that. The drivers we expect to slowly start catching up. But if anything, intermediate conditions are the greatest equalizer in the F1 games, where we don't know what's quite going to happen, as we haven't seen these kind of conditions all season long. This is going to open up a huge opportunity for every of the drivers, especially if they can make these intermediates work, as the track just seems to be getting wetter and wetter and wetter, and we might even start heading towards wet conditions if it keeps downpouring like this.
Yeah, this is really, you said, the great equalizer. It is also interesting with the drivers who are quite quick in the dry, or the drivers that maybe were struggling for pace a little earlier on in this stage of the race. Again, pretty much the halfway point at the moment. The question with rain, right? How hard is it going to rain, and for how long will it rain? And this is for the lead of the race at the moment. Newt going very deep. I thought that might be a move around the outside, but I don't think that was intentional here. Newt closing Tom Hug down here. And Newt seems to be in, as what you guys would say, the pound seat, trying to just get the power down, just get it straight, easing on the throttle. And we're already flat out on the throttle here now. It's quite brave through here. And again, you mentioned wet tires. Will intermediates be enough? How long is the rain going to last? When will it let off? And when do they come back in for not softs, but for dry tires here? As we see Willow attacking Assassin J into the first corner. Will they get that done? Much more confident on the brakes, and still gets it stopped in for the apex. Fantastic move on the brakes there from Willow. And now we jump forward. This is for the lead of the race again. Newt in that other, the alternate livery, the Suzuka livery from earlier on there for the Red Bull, chasing Tom Hug down. Tom still in the lead. Tom holding on about half a second or so. Newt in rears. And again, the rain is just pouring it down. I was going to say chucking it down, but I don't think I used the right accent for it. As we have a look on board, oh, look at all the rain just sloshing across the top of the car. And that Mercedes could not be really any closer considering where we are on the track. Newt just trying to keep running into the back of Tom here. Any kind of lockups won't really bother the tires, but can you get it turned in? Can you get it out of the corners without losing too much time here as we have a look back here? Ginka being attacked this time by GMT UFC, who has a small penalty there, and Kick Salvers 13 and 14 at the moment. But again, Tom hung out front, Newt very close, and Pillacoris right back in contention.
Chris Picolis obviously being back in contention, looking quite good right now behind Ben Mills, trying to keep up as much as possible, as we are getting Assassin J slowly falling down the order. Ben Mills is going to try and make the same kind of overtake that Willow had done just a lap prior. As they slide down the inside of the NRSs, we do actually see a big gap forming to Liam Doherty, who's struggling in these conditions. 3.5 seconds behind Christos Pillacoris already, and that gap is slowly just expanding, which is inviting Christos Pillacoris into an amazing spot right now. 3 extra drivers between Chris Pillacoris and the title rivals plus Willow, who we have seen charge onto the championship in these previous 2 rounds. The main thing here, though, is Chris needs to get into the top 4 positions to guarantee this championship. So can any of these drivers deny the charge of Chris? One of those drivers who can't, though, is Assassin J, and Ben Mills are going to have to try and get everything out of that Williams and stick ahead of Christos Pillacoris, who's going to be delighted that they can get back into this race after it looks so miserable, not even within the top 10.
Yeah, Ben Mills looking in that left-hand mirror before the final corner there, really still chucking it in Pillacoris on that final corner. Ben Mills is going to look at his mirror and go, "Are you kidding me? I'm seeing green again." And trying to take the lead there is Newt. I believe, to my knowledge, Tom and Newt have not been on the podium, let alone a race win this year, if I'm correct. And it looks like both of these drivers have an enormous opportunity to take the win here in a rain-soaked, almost flooded Barcelona, or Brazil track here at Interlagos. Again, this is just classic Brazil, and it looks like Pilicoris chasing down Ben Mills right ahead here, less than a car length between them, and they're both recharging. Oh, and now deploying there, of course, potentially having a look down into the right-hand sweeper, nothing doing there. That would be quite a brave move, especially on a driver of Ben Mills' caliber there. As actually Ben Mills goes defensive, apologies. And it looks like Pilicoris is going to be not necessarily setting up a switchback or getting side by side, but basically getting as close as possible. Oh, actually around the outside here into Pico de Pato. Not quite, and it looks like Pilicoris will have to attack into the first corner.
With the rain, grip changes where you can find it. As the drivers are testing out where they can find the grip, Christoph Pedicoris is finding grip elsewhere on the circuit, but you don't normally see an overtake here, as it's going to try and feed their way around the outside. We do see Newt trying to eke there on the way on the inside of Tom Hogue, but not able to find it. Instead, we go back to Christoph Pedicoris. They're going to have to go challenged around the outside. Instead, they fake it. They're going to go late on the inside. Can they find grip? They have to stick over the curb, because that's where the water's going to start the puddle, as we see again Newt on the inside of Tom Hogue trying to make it work. This time later on the brakes, finally getting into P1, but Luke Sawyer is now directly here on the charge for P number 1, trying to pull as much time as possible, as Willow also trying to gap that as Ben Mills and Christoph Pedicoris, as we see Luke Sawyer may be able to find a bit more grip as they take a slightly different line, but unable to find anything now. We do look back again to Christoph Pedicoris, who has got past on the outside of Ben Mills, who tries to stuff it on the inside. Get onto the curb is going to be difficult for Christoph Pedicoris, so Ben Mills will be able to try and force Christoph over, but it's going to get very tight, and with the front wing ahead, Chris is going to try and stamp out Ben Mills now onto the inside line, but it's going to just open up again for Ben Mills, who is still sticking on, and is now going to go side by side as they go around this outside section. Ben Mills eventually will get toughed out by Christoph Pedicoris as he slides onto the little bit of the curb and has another twitch to make it so. Christoph Pedicoris up at the P5, only one position away from the critical P4. Luke Sawyer going to dive for P number 2. They're going to chase down Newt to get the race win, but if Christoph Pedicoris finds themselves in the top 4, it will be all for nothing. Even with everything that's gone on this race, Christoph Pedicoris might salvage the championship win around early, but Luke Sawyer is going to try and make everything they can out of this result. They're going to try and deny Christoph Pedicoris anything they can. They're going to charge after Newt now, as they've shown quite good pace here on the wet, but Willow has also shown that pace as well. 2 seconds behind Tom Hogue, and then a further 5.5 to Christoph Pedicoris as Ben Mills trying to struggle and slip away now.
They were glued together earlier on. So we have a fight for the lead between Luke Sawyer and Newt. We have a fight between the two of 3 title contenders. It's all coming down. And as speaking of coming down here, this is Assassin J attacking on the inside of Liam Doherty. That's going to be the outside for the next couple of corners. And can the Ferrari get anything done? Not quite. And we're going to have to wait for the back straight here. Again, Ben Mills unlucky that this is a counterclockwise circuit, because they were going side by side almost every corner. My jaw hit the floor, and it stayed there for about 45 seconds or so as GMT UFC picks up another a 3-second time penalty there. And we have a look on board with Willow here, doing decently in the rainy conditions. About to pick up a podium here if they can get down the inside of Tom. Tom's not going to make this very easy. Again, Luke Sawyer had to do all of maybe a lap or so behind Tom before they were able to figure out a way to kind of pick this lock here. And Willow's going to potentially attempt something. Yeah, again, Sawyer going down the outside that turns into the inside for the current corner we're on. I could not believe my eyes that Luke was going for that, and it almost worked out as they close into about a second out front. And again, having a look at Willow, Tom on our screens, almost pushing the Mercedes is the McLaren, and Willow trying to get this done before the straightaway. We are at the 2/3 mark here at Brazil, the 7th round of the F1 Spring Championship. And it looks like at the moment Pilicoris is in a good position, but would love to make it 4th And we are looking at the fourth place person right behind the final podium position. Almost 40% battery across the line there as Willow goes down the inside and potentially hangs Tom Hug out to dry. And Willow, apologies, and Willow moves into third place there and will try to put the pace down. And out front there, Sawyer chasing down Newt.
Yeah, looks like we're going to try and chase down Newton now. Might actually be able to find it across any part of the circuit now that we do have wet conditions. But the main thing to notice about the ERS is that it comes a lot quicker because you're braking harder in these wet conditions. You can play around with it more. You can deploy it in your non-standard locations, which helps open up these opportunities for overtakes. As we're seeing from Luke Sawyer, deploying it almost everywhere around this circuit now. As the grip and the traction levels are lower, you spend less time on throttle, more time on the brakes, more time off of throttle. That just charges the energy store that much quicker, and it helps with the racing conditions even further. But Chris's Pilacoris almost already guaranteed a top 4 result then, as they are 3 seconds behind Tom Hug, who does face themselves with a penalty and is already starting to catch them up with over 10 laps remaining as well. Chris's Pilacoris' top 4 and championship seems to be completely back on the table. Meanwhile, Luke Sawyer now behind the Newt, trying to make the most out of this championship, trying to extend the lead over Ben Mills in wet conditions where they are thriving. They want to be the one to win the race when Chris's Pilacoris finally lets it slip. But Willow is going to have a dastardly challenge against that on this one. They didn't have a chance to last time, but again, back on the podium positions at the moment as Willow, 2.7 seconds behind this battle of Luke Sawyer, but they're getting slowly caught by Chris's Pilacoris unless they can get some better pace down now that they're back into clear air.
Yeah, it really does look like Pilacoris has been praying about as hard as they can, and the prayers have been answered there. And again, pitting early, looking for the open air, trying to find a gap, and again, has not really had to fight anyone. They've either pit or have been relatively easy to, as we see GMT UFC with a 10-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane. They'll serve that before the end of the race or have the 10 seconds added on. So we are right on board here with Luke Sawyer. Pilacoris met with very little resistance and using all the curb there, Sawyer, on the exits. Again, the rain appears, from our pictures you're looking at, to have stopped. Obviously, the track's still soaking wet, and I do not know if we're going to have any kind of dry running. I would assume that as we have the Haas of GMT UFC. Oh, there we go, for medium tires. So we can actually get a look. I was going to say, if anybody wanted to be brave and come in and have a look at what dry tires would look like, everybody's going to be having a look, if they can, at GMT UFC and meet the teacher in the Kick Salver. And 14th also coming through. So this will be quite an interesting thing to see. When does it dry out? Again, the questions of, how soon can I go on to dry tires? Because as the track dries out, there's a dry line that forms when all the drivers run on the same parts of the circuit. And that will lend itself to us going back potentially to, I would assume, some soft tires with only a handful of laps to go here in round 7. This is really playing into the classic soaking it down as we have the leaders catching up to the back of GMT UFC.
We've seen on multiple occasions the intermediates can turn into slick intermediates. They can stand quite well on a dry surface, and they can stand this pace differential of a pit stop. So it's going to be, how late is this race going to go dry? Because it is clearly starting to dry out, and very rapidly as well. The climatic conditions of Brazil, the high temperature, but the ability to randomly set a downpour is at full display as the track is rapidly drying up on the main part of the circuit. But as soon as you hit these curbs, it is very, very wet still, as we are seeing Chris Pilacoris is now on the back end of Tom Hug. Luke Sawyer is still trying to get through on Newt, is allowing Willow to catch that battle up. But right now, this is going to be the overtake that will put Chris Pilacoris back into championship contention, but they won't find it just yet. But they will find the grip on the inside line as the track is starting to dry, and they will drive through into that championship position. Chris Pilacoris just needs to hold on to this, but as the track is dry now, we're seeing Ben Mills starting to come back into it. They're finding a better pace now that the track is starting to dry out, and it's probably only 1 or 2 laps away before those dry tires will clearly be able to stick back to the surface. So who's going to gamble on this lap, or are they going to push it a little bit later if they do pit? And again, you got to remember, they got to catch back up that pit lane time. We're slowly closing in on the end of the race. There's not going to be that much time. You're going to have to find 6 or so seconds a lap if you pit within 2 laps time. But we're going to see Luke Sawyer again, going to be the first one on to change strategies of the leaders. But you do see that surface water tension as they lock up the brakes. We see Chris's Pilacoris coming in as well. They know they just need 4, but we see Ben Mills going into the back of Tom Hug and picking up some wing damage in the pit lane. Potentially not expecting how early Tom Hug will go onto the brakes, and that might take them completely out of the top 4 contention. Even though it's gone dry, they're going to have to sit here for an absolute age while we see Liam Doherty coming out onto the circuit. They're going to get to come back past. Even though they struggled on the wet tyres, they now get past Ben Mills as we see Geek, Willow, and Newt still on the intermediates. What will be quicker? Will it be quicker to stay that one more lap, or will the track already clearly be dry enough? The track, now that they're back out on circuit, is very much dry, and Willow is going to potentially fall to the side as Luke Sawyer is now going to try and find all of that lap time. But they've only got 1 or 2 corners left to go. But DRS is allowed back again. Willow's going to try and charge up the hill. He's in with the DRS of Newt. He's going to have plenty of grip to come through this part of the circuit, but he's going to need the quickest pit stop he can, and then it's still going to be marginal. And if they can get past Luke Sawyer as he comes into the pit lane behind Newt as well, Chris Bilacoris onto the hard set of tires, though potentially not the raciest set of tires to go to the end of this race, as Ben Mills on the softs, Liam on the mediums, Luke on the mediums as well, and Willow will be switching over to mediums. But I hope that it's not the mediums he started the race with. It says he has 16 laps already put onto these tires. It will only be 5 laps left, but that will be horrendous for his pace. He will find himself leaving 2 to 3 seconds left of time as we see Luke Sawyer rounding through the center S's. It was quicker to stay on the intermediates for 1 extra lap as Newt and Willow come out into the lead, but they're going to have to warm up these tires as Newt finds themselves in a chance to come with a shock victory with 5 laps remaining. But Willow on 16 lap tires, can you defend with those?
I cannot believe how well Newt has soaked up all that pressure, hunted down Tom Hug earlier on in the race. Only 5 laps to go again. That 3-second gap seems to be holding at the moment as Willow is actually under attack. And Luke Sawyer with much fresher tires, as you said, and now you've got a gaggle of cars, like the Haas's in between there, and it looks like Luke Sawyer, again, half a second. I don't know if there's going to be anything between them as they come around the final section here. DRS wide open. Looks like Willow comes into the pit lane, potentially for a brand new set of tires, as Luke Sawyer now inherits second place. So Luke Sawyer, this is all playing out very nicely for the top, and guess who is in third place? Chris's Pilacoris, third place at the moment on hard tires. We saw them weaving down this straightaway 1 lap ago, trying to get that temperature. As you said earlier, it is not hot out there. As we go in Alpine, all sorts of dance moves here, right behind Tom Hug, trying to get into the head of the Mercedes man is Liam Doherty. And I don't think he's got anything else at the moment, as Geek, again, the Red Bulls trying to fight for the constructors at the moment. Newt out in front, a handful of points if they can bring this home. Again, only 4 or so laps left in the race as we have a look here at Liam Doherty, and looking back here to Ben Mills on the softs. Ben Mills has the tire of choice for this type of final flurry of pit stops. And again, bone dry now, it looks like. You can even see the marks on the road. There's no more sheen. There's no more pools of water, and it looks like Alpine potentially going down the inside here of Tom Hug onto the start-finish straight, if you could even call it that. Looks like he's already cleared him potentially, as Luke Sawyer picking up a 3-second time penalty now. So will that cause any issues? Chris's Pilacoris with the hard tires, again, same as Lolly says, the fastest lap of the race there on what I assume is, on the hards. Chasing down Assassin J. Chris's Pilacoris in third place. Luke Sawyer picking up that penalty, but it does not look like it's going to change anything. And again, Newt out front as we ride on board through that kind of bowl section, technical section of the Interlagos track here in Brazil. And this has really turned on its head multiple times, and looks like Newt is actually losing some time. Not sure if there's any coasting or any kind of charging up for the coming battle ahead, or if Luke Sawyer is using those mediums to their advantage. There is less than 2 seconds for the race lead.
Luke Sawyer does have a few tenths of an advantage, as we saw from qualifying, over Newt, and with a couple extra temps on the medium tyres, will be charging as much as they can. You see, locking up through into the CNRSs. They also now got to offset this 3-second penalty to still finish ahead of Christos Pilakouris, but this opens up the opportunity even further for Newt. Newt has 2 seconds right now, and then a further 3 in penalty advantage over Luke Sawyer to come through with this race victory. Meanwhile, as we look down the order, Liam Doherty into P number 4, 2 seconds behind Christos Pilakouris, but with the faster tyres, might be able to make something, but with 3 laps left, it's going to be very difficult. And then we look further behind, Ben Mills in P6 on the sauce, followed by Willow, who just set the fastest lap of the race on that set of compound, trying to make up for their mistakes. Ben Mills with wing damage in this race, going into the pit lane. Willow selecting the wrong set of tyres and having to re-pit to not face puncture territory. And then Christos Pilakouris, still unknown, as if it was a driver error or caused by someone else. But they are back in the top 4. They're back on the podium where we know them to be, and that's where they need to be to win this championship. So it might have been a little bit of God's creation for Christos Pilakouris on this one, but their creation has always been in their hands. They know what to do. They always have driven consistently, but they've got 2 laps to go of this Autodromo out in Brazil.
Yeah, and with the Red Bulls here, as Newt is still in the lead, only 1.5 seconds. But again, Luke Sawyer with, as we have a look at Luke Sawyer, only 1.5 seconds there. Luke Sawyer gaining on Newt and potentially can get this done in the last couple of laps here, but it looks like Newt should have this in the bag, barring anything happening. Christos Pilakouris in 3rd place. Willow and Lolly flying in 7th and 8th, both setting fastest laps across the board there, but it doesn't look like they're going to be close enough to anyone else to make any maneuvers. And actually, Assassin J on the back of Lolly, so Assassin J making quite good moves there as well. And again, Luke Sawyer, even with the penalty, will want to get in front of Newt. They will want to take the win on the road, even if the points don't shake out in their favor. And again, with the mediums, this potentially could be happening down to the line. Again, both recharging as we see them coming into one of the better overtaking opportunities, not quite close enough for Luke Sawyer. And again, GMT UFC, another 3-second time penalty for them as we are halfway across this final lap.
Brazil, Brazil, Brazil. We all love this circuit. It always ends up delivering. It's a track with high variance. It's a track with huge upside. It's a track with history of rain and a lot of championship consequences. And here at the BUSR, it will showcase that once again, but it is the minister of championship consequences. It's always been a historical track, and today it'll be a historical track for Newt. It's been a bit of a doubtful season, but they will gain a win on the championship standings, and they'll be the 2nd driver outside of Christos Pilakouris to win a race, who comes through in 3rd to win the championship yet again for back-to-back seasons. While Ben Mills struggles down in P5, Tom Hogg gets a nice P6 for themselves, while Willow wallows in P number 7. Laddie picks up P number 8 for Racing Bulls, and then Assassin J and Geek round out the top 10, leaving Ginka, Domlab, Meet the Teacher, and GMT down in P14, with Apex and Pinnock retiring. Luke Sawyer happy to get P2, but a position they're becoming all too familiar with. But this time, they do stand in front of Christos Pilakouris, but not far enough ahead to keep within the championship hunt. Christos Bilakouris will be your champion for yet another season of the BUSR and will get to stand on the podium in that title deciding race.
Meet the new boss, same as the old boss. Christos Bilakouris taking the championship, not in the way that they would have wanted, but I think they'll take it all the same. And again, Newt, congratulations on the win again. And I believe the entire podium is extremely well deserved. Everybody drove fantastic races, lots of setbacks. Again, a couple of decisions and some incidents into the pit lane and around the track, but overall, a fantastic and classic Interlagos race.
Christos Bilakouris will be the winner of yet another BUSR season after a fantastic 36 laps of Brazil. We also got to mention that it's brought to you by NSC Sim Staff, Grid Finder, and one name that seems to pass me at the moment. But it's always been good here at the BUSR. I will have to leave you in the capable hands of Wooly and James for the interviews. And I hope you will tune in for the next round as well.
Thank you for joining us.
Amazing. Right. That was a race now, wasn't it?
That was fascinating and fantastic. Fantastic shots of all the different battles that were happening. Very, very chaotic.
Yes. Yeah. We always love a bit of rain at Brazil, don't we? From 2008, when it decided the title, to 2012, I think it decided the title as well. 2010 had a say in it. To 2 seasons ago, when it rained and I stayed out on hard tires in the rain and binned it. But we don't talk about that race. But yeah,
We
Chris
don't talk about the race where you binned it.
never. But
And
Chris
had an
seemed down
accident.
and out, didn't he? He seemed out of it, and the weather just intervened.
Yeah, I was gonna say that I was surprised. I wasn't surprised by the weather. I was surprised by some of the decisions, both very gutsy and also very kind of by the book. There were lots of drivers that, it began to rain. They took about one lap or so. It got really heavy. They came into the pits. I believe it was Luke Sawyer in between I think it was Luke Sawyer, Newt, and Willow behind. Willow looking like they were going to be potentially winning the race. They seemed to have the pace. They had plenty of laps left in the session, and it seemed that potentially Willow might be able to capitalize on a maneuver if the two leaders not come together, but if they start fighting harder than necessary with only 10, 15 laps to go, seemingly have plenty of time. And then Luke Sawyer ducked out of it. They folded their hand, came into the pits. It was the complete right decision. And Sawyer with, I think, about a second or so to the leader at the end of the race. So again, very gutsy decision to kind of fold early, come in, get the stop done when there's not as much traffic in the pit stops, and come out and just trust that they had the pace. So again, really, really fascinating and just fantastic racing. Interlagos always has great overtakes. There's all sorts of different lines. It's not a wide track compared to some of the more modern tracks, but it really is something special, and it proved it yet again.
Absolutely. I was sort of hoping that one of Willow or Newt would just try and stick it out on the intermediates. 6 laps. Surely they wouldn't have caught 25 seconds, but unfortunately we were robbed of the chance to see that when they decided to play it safe. Unfortunately for us, but good for Newt. He ended up winning the race anyway. Right. Who should we talk to first? Should we talk to Luke? Should I drag him in? Hello, Luke.
Hello, Josh. Yeah, it was something.
So, you seem to handle the weather quite well. James was just sort of telling me how by the book and how brilliantly you did for it. Was there any particular reason you came in on the laps that you did?
the first one was a bit funny. So I want to say it was around lap 15 or 16. I'd boxed because I'd hit 80%. It wasn't an undercut or anything flashy. It was purely just for the sake of saving tyres. And then the very next lap was the crossover. So I boxed 2 laps in a row. And I guess somehow the pit stop gap just kind of vanished. I still don't know how I gained all that time. And then with the second one, it was just, as soon as the rain stopped, it just looked dry. And then I had a massive snap. I was like, yeah, it's time coming now.
Wow, it
Where was that
certainly
snap
worked.
that you had?
It was last corner. So basically, like on the lap that I was like, right, I was about to box anyways. I had a massive snap of oversteer, and it was one of them where if I didn't come in then, I might as well have just packed it up there and then.
Well, definitely interesting. And again, I was just speaking about you. I believe you were in between. I think it was Newt and Willow, and you were effectively in second place with a really good chance to take the lead. Which obviously, if you are sideways out of the final sector, would not really do you much good because that would, of course, turn into something else later on. Were there any like second guessing when it came to whether it's dry, whether it's wet, whether I need to make an adjustment?
No, not really. I'll be honest. It was. I kind of just went. It was like, it's my last one because I'm not here for the next one. So I'm just gonna Hail Mary everything. I might beat Ben in the championship. I might not. I probably won't. But this is a nice buffer that could give me at least a chance. But to be honest, I just went in thinking, you know what, it's my last one until summer. Let me just have some fun and just do some stupid stuff. Let's see if it works. And somehow it did. I don't have an answer as to how. It just did.
It definitely did. Speaking of summer, are you title aims? Are you hoping to challenge Chris's?
When pigs fly, yeah. This season as a whole has gone so much better than I would have thought. Like, personally, I mean, I like to set myself quite low expectations just so I can still keep it fun and be happy when I have a good result. But getting, 5 podiums out of 7 and a sprint podium. I've had 2 chances for a win as well, like genuine chances, which, albeit, yeah, I bottled them both because that's just me. I couldn't have really asked for much more. I'm still waiting for a win. I'm probably going to be the Lando Norris of BUSR, most podiums without a win. But hey-o, I'm happy. It's another podium. I'm living up to my nickname of silver medal.
Well, if I look at the information, and I want to make sure I get this right, Lando Norris is a champion, is he not?
He is, yeah.
Seems like this may work out for you if you just keep going at it, man.
Hopefully, yeah. That would be ideal.
Amazing. Well, thank you for talking to us today, Luke. I hope that sometime in summer that there will be a strategy decision that goes your way and that you will finally break that duck. Potentially on the way to a championship, who knows? But either way, very well done today, and we will speak to you in the summer.
Thank you very much. Catch us round.
Cheers, Luke. Right. I think we'll save Chris's till last, given that he has won the championship. So let's talk to the race winner. Let's bring him in. Hello, 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 Newt.
Hello.
How was that mess of a race for you?
That was unbelievable. I just got the strategy absolutely perfect, I think. I wanted to save the mediums as long as possible because I wanted to take them to the inters. So they weren't even at like 70% by the time the rain hit. And then for some reason the rain hit the hardest I've ever seen it. It was full wet in like 2 corners. So I got a massive advantage over everyone else based on that. And then I think going from the inters to the dries afterwards, I think I got the right lap as well. I think Luke maybe went a lap too early because he ended up losing a lot of time. So yeah, I think the strategy was just perfect.
You definitely seemed to. What was your thinking when you cross the line to see everyone else pitting as the rain starts coming down, and then suddenly they all come out on dry tires. Was that sort of a eureka, laugh to yourself moment?
I as soon as I got to like turn 4 and there was no grip left at all, I knew that I'd got the right strategy. It was I've never seen the rain hit that hard. Usually it takes like a lap or two to fully get the dries off the pace. But it just felt like as soon as the rain hit, it was just instantly into conditions. So yeah, as soon as I saw all of them coming in, I knew that I might have I might have pulled a blinder with the strategy.
You said that you nailed the strategy or pulled the blinders. You just said. Now, were there any difficult decisions when it came to either the strategy or when to pit versus not when to pit when it came to the other drivers? Were you looking for any kind of gaps, or were you just kind of the rain's been turned on? I'm coming in. It's dry. I'm going back to slicks.
Well, with both of my pit stops, I basically overcut the rest of the grid by 1 lap. So I had a gap to pit into both times, and the only difficult bit was when I was behind Tom Hug and I just couldn't get past him because the wet it's impossible to overtake. So I had to spend quite a few laps behind him, but he came in the same lap that I did, so I didn't really have any choice. And then when it came to the second pit stop, I basically had a massive gap behind me because I went 1 lap later because everyone else had already boxed by that point except me and Willa. And then Willow screwed up his pit stop, so I had a 4 or 5 second gap behind to Luke, so I could calm down a bit and not push as hard.
That was quite a drive. Are you here next week as well? No, Luke said
Yeah,
he wasn't.
probably. I'll probably be there. It's
Probably.
dependent
You
on
don't
the
want to
day,
pull
I
a
think.
Nico Rosberg and just win the race and then not come back.
I mean, maybe. I think it'll depend on the day whether I can be bothered to race or not. So it'll definitely be a late decision. But Abu Dhabi's not really a track that I like very much, so I have no idea if I'll be racing. To be fair, my pace today was awful as well. I got it purely off strategy, which because Luke was much faster than me. But as soon as I saw him get a 3-second penalty, I knew it was over at that point.
Well, pace or no pace, that was a truly breathtaking drive today. Didn't really put a foot wrong.
Yeah.
And yeah,
I
fairly
nearly
comfortable in the
spun
end.
at turn 4 a few times, but apart from that.
Well done on today, Newt.
Thank you.
And we shall hope to speak to you again soon.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Cheers, Newt. Right, that leaves us with just one person left to talk to.
Dun, dun, dun.
He won last season in his opening season. He decided that the points haul that he accrued was not good enough, and so he had to come back and do it again. And he has done it again. He has absolutely demolished last season's result, really, winning, what's that, 6 out of 7, and he's only turned up to 6. So 6 out of 6 so far. It was an interesting drive, spun somehow. Chris's, what was that?
Where to begin with? Firstly, I completely forgot that Park Fermi was on. I was starting the race with a quality setup on like 25 wings, and I was a boat on the straight. And then you remember in Monza last season where your wheel died and you just went into a wall?
I do, yes.
Yes, that happened with my controller. My controller disconnected. I just went straight onto the wall. So, yeah, everyone in the VC just went mad. After that, I had like front wing damage, so I had to box on the hards, and I was like, yeah, if I get anything more than P8 here, then fairs. Then the inters came, so I was like, I'm already like dead last. I might as well just risk it and box early. Turns out it was the right call. Pulled off a huge undercut on somehow Liam. Like I don't know how I got amongst those guys again. And yeah, the pace after was good. Like the fight with Ben was probably like the best and most clean fight I've had in like ages. And yeah, after that, I saw Whale had to box. I honestly don't even know what happened. I shouldn't even be here, if I'm gonna be honest. I don't know why I'm P3. I don't know why I'm here. I should be like somewhere in P7. I honestly, this is my worst result in BUSR. But without context, you think this was a terrible drive. But like, I don't know what I'm doing here. Like, I should be way down in the pecking order.
You really had a good amount of space in front of you, it seemed from the commentary booth, that you didn't have to fight too hard with any kind of back markers and lose a ton of time. Was that your experience out there coming back from the rear?
The dries, yeah, it was, but I actually didn't have that many cars to overtake. Most of them were actually from the pits that I overtook. So I, in general, didn't have like many fights. It was only with Ben that obviously was not going to be an easy one, but it was a fun and enjoyable one, like half a lap side by side. Apart from that, really, like every single overtake was like a pit overtake because of the weather changing and everything. So yeah, like I said, I honestly don't know how I'm P3. Like you'd think this is finally a race where I'm gonna have a stinker. Like I'm gonna be way down, and I'm still somehow in P3. So I don't know what it is, and it only happens in this league. It's just for some reason everything goes my way, even when it could all just go wrong.
Oh, that's definitely the right way to do things as opposed to to nothing going right for you. Next season, are you going to go for 3 in a row?
I mean, I'd be a fool to say not to, but yeah, I guess I'll go for 3 in a row. Still got Abu Dhabi next, which I did promise the lads if I get the championship in Brazil, I will start from last. So yeah, you try and get a last to first there completed. And then yeah, depending on F1 26, see if it's gonna be even worse than this game. Hopefully not, but I don't have much hopes to be honest. Uh, yeah, we'll see how the game is, and yeah, maybe we'll go for 3 for 3.
Wow. We we wish you the best of luck in your endeavours next week from last in the grid. You did a last to first last week, so what's two last to firsts in 3 weeks anyway? But yeah, a phenomenal drive. Luck might have gone your way, but you know, every F1 champion has had some luck somewhere on their journey. And so it has been a dominant season. There is one more round for you to potentially sweep every race that you've attended. Fingers crossed for the other competitors that you don't. Fingers crossed for you that you do. But once again, that is a very, very impressive drive. And congratulations once again to you, Chrysis.
Thank you very much.
And hopefully,
Congrats. We hope to have you back.
we will see you again next week.
Thank you. Good night.
Cheers, Chrysis. That was our champion. He's done it again, hasn't he? He somehow, some way, breaks his controller and still finishes on the podium to win the championship. I don't know how he does it.
I think that again, his decisions, right? So first of all, if we back up another step, and I never tell Chris's this to their face, he's built a mountain of points. He has performed well. He has demolished in qualifying, and every race that he has uh, attended this season, he has won it. And because of that, he has, with a third place today, secured a his second championship in a row, which means that even if he has a terrible race and he's not sure why he's on the podium, he has had tremendous pace. And I know he's a little kind of sheepish about it, but he really has built something special with this season. And to win it this way may not be the way that he would like. I'm sure that every racing driver alongside you and I would love to just win every race and sweep it. That would be the dream. But Chrysis has done something special to where even when his controller has broken on arguably the fastest point on the track and he's slammed into the wall, he's able to make good decisions, have good pace, recover, and not quit. You know, not that any of these drivers would potentially do that, but there is, a part of you as you're sitting in 14th or 15th when you're trying to win a championship. Vettel, I think it was in 2011 or 12 when he was backwards in turn 4 at Interlagos in similar in a similar scenario, and you have the option in sport to give up. And Chris's didn't today, and because of that, he got himself on the podium and won the whole dang thing. So again, big congratulations to him.
Yeah, he could have given up. He didn't, and it was a majestic drive from the Cypriot back through the field. But we cannot take away from Newt, who got everything right. He laughed at the other competitors as he saw them boxing a second time in 2 laps, and he survived the elements in the best way possible to take a very, very comfortable win in the end. Luke, once again, just missing out. Maybe in the future we will see him finally step up onto the podium, onto the top of the podium. Let's say he's been on the podium many times already, but he'll finally get to taste the champagne of winning a race. Perhaps next week, perhaps next season, but yes, what a race it was today, and we cannot wait for next week for Abu Dhabi and all the chaos that will bring.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to it, Josh. And again, Abu Dhabi, I doubt it'll be chucking it down in the Middle East. We'll have to wait and see. Have to wait and see. But yeah, these drivers. And again, Abu Dhabi, the final track in the F1 calendar proper, and not normally one of the top tracks on a driver's list of favorites. Brazil usually will make an appearance on a lot of fans and drivers alike. And Abu Dhabi, usually not the #1 favorite for all of our drivers, but of course they will know it very, very well. And again, it's going to be the final round of the season. Who doesn't want to see that, right? This is going to be the finale. We have constructors titles, and again, second place in the championship. We're going to have to sort out more places than the champions. So we'll need to stick around and find out what's going to happen.
Absolutely. I personally cannot wait for next week to see how it will all unravel, particularly to see if Ben can top Luke to take P2 or whether Luke will hold on given that he is not there. But for tonight, I think that is it. Apologies for everyone again that this wasn't streamed and it was only recorded. But hopefully, once this is uploaded, it will be a race for the archives. A cracking chaos melee of weather, of dry, of just everything, really. But yes, what a phenomenal race, and I look forward to seeing you all next week. From me, that is goodbye, and from James,
Goodbye for now as well.
cheers, guys.
Houston, if you're ready, we'll maneuver. Reaching out. Rainbow Road. There is no place and no moment in history where I could stand and say, arithmetic begins here, now.